They've been here, some of them have been here a long, long time. They have lifespans that are thousands of years. They're carnivorous. They are not friendly to mankind, at least the ones that are here.
Are you saying carnivorous, they eat humans?
Yes. And they need to be, they won't eat a dead human. It has to be alive at the time of the killing. Their preference is children. You know, and we've been told, you shouldn't talk about that. You know, there are, other people say, well, you better not talk about the reptilians. Well, you know, bull. You know, why not? According to the Andromedans, they're responsible for 31,712 children disappearing in the last 25 years from the United States. These children were food. And I'm supposed to just shut up and not say anything about it because people don't want to hear it? That's tough. That's tough. You know, Westchester County, in the last 5 years, 3,000 children in Westchester County, New York, have vanished without a trace. Where are they going? Why are we allowing this to happen? And why should people stay in denial about it?
Now, how are they able to do this? How are they able to? How are they able to? How are they able to do it? How are they able to come up out of this from underground and do it, or do they have?
There are tunneling systems everywhere. They're being helped by the Greys, and also there are groups within the higher echelon that are actually helping them acquire this.
So human beings are abducting the kids and giving them to the Greys, who in turn give them to the Alpha Draconians?
That's right. That's part of the deal. They won't come up as long as we feed them down there. You understand? It's about human beings selling themselves out. The echelon attitude here, the needs of the few outweigh the needs of humanity. And sorry, that just isn't right. You know, but it's going to have to be humanity that's going to rise up and take the stand. You're just going to have to turn off your televisions. They're going to have to get in their car. They're going to have to fire everybody in Washington, D.C. that knows and does nothing. And they're going to have to do something. You know, this apathy's got to end. Otherwise, the way we live is going to end. Period. I mean, that's the bottom line. You know, and I'm not coming from a fear space. I'm really quite angry about the apathy and the fact that, you know, when people give lectures and try to tell us, people want to stand up and fight with them. Look at what's happening around us. The indications are everywhere, everywhere. The truth is now an obscure thing. You know, the lie is the norm. There's something wrong here. What's wrong with this picture?
Let me say first off that this is a court of inquiry. It's not an adversarial court. It's a nonprofit educational event. And with enormous, enormous energy and intelligence, all of us have been brought together to try to bring out some of the aspects. So if I may, I have prepared an overview statement based on my work these many past weeks. And I want to just say that as a parent and as a patriot, I'm absolutely outraged by what we're allowing to happen to our children. Humanity is judged on how you treat the weakest member of the society. Let me say that although pedophilia, which says child love, has nothing to do with the abuse of children, these children are not just kidnapped and in some cases bred by families as a cash crop. We have people in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them. And when they are sold, they come without birth certificates, which means it's easier to kill them and have no one ask where they are. We're also importing children by the plane load. Again, children who have no documentation. It's not just child slavery or child sex abuse. It's also child torture, because you have adrenalized blood. You have the whole blood drinking ceremony of the satanic world. It's also the use of children for harvesting body organs. We'll have the Falun Gong testimony tomorrow. One of the reasons that the Falun Gong are so popular is because they're so healthy, so that you can harvest their body organs and get the very best. And then you have ritual ceremonies and ritual murder, as well as incidental murder. But I know the system. I've been a spy all over the world. I have created the Marine Corps Intelligence Command. I have trained intelligence and law enforcement representatives, over 8,000 of them from across 66 countries. They're all, without exception, good people trapped in a bad system. And one of the most wonderful things that this court could achieve, now that we've had Pizzagate, for example, which opened people's mind, is we could achieve an opening of the public mind and an absolute imperative from the public to governments, including the U.S. government, which I think is the center of gravity in so many ways. I have found in my research in preparation for this court and all of the work that will follow that most organizations that end up being used to prey on children, Oxfam is a recent example, all of the United Nations organizations, the Boy Scouts of America, all of the child services agencies across the United States of America, they did not start out as organizations to prey on children, but they attract pedophiles. And ultimately, pedophiles end up rising in the ranks and controlling those organizations, so that an organization that initially started out in the service of children becomes an organization that is in fact hunting children.
And what it's all about is that the blood and the menstrual blood contains something that is important for the propagation of this race that is controlling things on this planet. They're called the Illuminati. And the Illuminati are actually run by these 13 bloodlines, which are all of the royal families in Europe and in England. And they need the blood because they are, in fact, not human. They take human shape. They are reptilians. And they need the blood. The blood helps them maintain their reptilian shape, and it helps them maintain their sanity, and it helps them to live in this world because they are not from this world. But what they need is, for it to be secreted in the blood, is they need terrorization of their victims before they are killed for their blood. And they have to terrorize them to get this to come out in the blood and be secreted in the blood. They are killed at that moment as they are staring into their eyes, and not only do they can't hold their shape when this happens. The human shape they cannot hold. They go back into reptilian shape as this is happening, because it's like an animalistic type of excitement. Oftentimes they will just rip into the victim and eviscerate them and start eating the flesh of this person too. And the fat from the intestinal area is highly valued, as they use it on their skin. And they drink the blood, and the blood is highly sought after, and it goes according also to rank within these creatures.
They're like servants.
What's the angry ones look like? The reptile ones that you were talking about?
Fucking bad. The ones that we're gonna be fighting.
Yeah, they have small eyes.
Yeah, we actually saw those in Battle LA.
They had small eyes
In their
and
and they cut open their stomachs and found
They got
out that
weapons?
They didn't have a heart, just a core.
they had weapons.
They're kind of like an onion.
Do they have weapons?
layers.
But it's okay. She's a veterinarian.
Are
She
they
can help.
evil
The alien ones.
or not?
They look like reptiles, not friendly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. This is a very bad drawing, but
It's badass.
This is pretty good to me.
Those are dudes on Land and Lost, right?
Just eat something. How tall are those motherfuckers right there?
these guys right here,
Yeah.
and they're all humanoids. So they both walk on two legs. They all walk on two legs.
Well, I don't want to fuck that thing.
And this thing right
The
here.
first thing, and they'll go like the fucking first one. I'd probably fuck
This
this.
thing right here, this thing right here is huge. They're actually they're taller than us. They stand about 6 foot something on an average to 7 foot.
Are they like 230? What are they like?
Huge. I don't know, but
They're gonna fuck me
the
up.
one
Full
image that I
range
have seen of them, they're huge. Like they have very strong build.
I want to say that I know that this is a challenging time for all Americans. We're enduring a great national trial, and we will prove that we can meet the moment. I want to assure the American people that we're doing everything we can each day to confront and ultimately defeat this horrible, invisible enemy. We're at war. In a true sense, we're at war, and we're fighting an invisible enemy. Think of that.
So there are changes going on in the earth. It seems they're not able to hold their shape like they once were able to, and people see them shapeshift more and more, and they need the blood to try and maintain it, to try and maintain their human form. I believe there's a time coming that because of what I've been told, when they are not going to bother having to hold that human shape as they had to before, and they want that time to come. It's been about 4,000 years ago, the Reptilians arrived here and again began to take over. And they instilled themselves in different places underground in the earth, and also this one part of them, the ruling part, took over and became involved in the politics and in the religion, and started controlling through these means at that point in time. Reptilian that come from another dimension, they materialize from out of another dimension and are present at rituals, and they are so powerful, and their presence is there's such an evilness about them, and they want out of this other dimension. Old ones are called out, and they are what Christianity would have called the demons.
Is this symbolism of the abyss anything to do with the fact that these reptilian demons of another dimension are somehow locked in a time-space prison, and they can't get out, and they can only get out when they're brought out in that way?
Yes, they want out of that dimension. They have been thrown into that dimension, and they can't leave that dimension. And that's actually what the abyss is about, is being in a different dimension. It's like something to do with the fourth dimension.
So take us through one of these rituals that you conducted at the highest level of this global brotherhood. What would happen?
And then they have these children that they're kidnapping and bringing in from other countries, and no one misses them because these are third world countries. And children they have the most energy, the purest energy, they're the highest form of sacrifice. They are used as actual blood sacrifices during these rituals because of, again, reptilians needing their blood. The blood will be gathered in a goblet, and it will be dispersed among the reptilians.
Are these rituals rare? I mean, how many are there that, say, go on a year? I mean, are we talking hundreds or thousands?
There are things happening every month of the year.
Now, it's not my working assumption, but the working assumption yet to be proven, that the totality of the children disappearing worldwide is toward 8 million people, toward 8 million children. In the United States of America, the acknowledged number, not counting the children being bred without birth certificates, not counting the children being imported without documentation, is between 600 and 800,000 a year. Now imagine Africa and East Asia and all these other locations. I personally believe that the number we want to try to document is rising well beyond the official figures, and we have yet to learn what the actual number is.
These evil people will not go down without a fight. They will take us all with them if they, like naughty little child that won't share their toys. If I can't have them, I'll break them. I'm not going to share. So that's what they will. They'll burn this world down and kill all of us with them, because if they can't have it, no one will have it, including us.
Many times I said we would drain the swamp, and that's exactly what we're doing right now. We're draining the swamp.
We are about to have a new age come. Your minds are about to be blown wide open. Right as we speak right now, there's a live operation going on worldwide. The pedophile satanic elite are being taken down. And the best part is that a lot of you right now are going to think I'm crazy. But in about a week or so, most of you are about to go crazy. Because as we speak now, they're pulling thousands upon thousands of children out of these underground bunkers and cities and dumbs, or whatever you want to call them. This operation is going on as I speak right now. New York, they've already released 2,100 children. They found that a lot of them were kidnapped victims from Katrina, but this is a drop in the bucket. I've spent my entire fortune, my entire life, trying to expose these people. 500,000 children a year have been going missing in America for a long time. 50,000 in Canada. Now, if you don't understand what it means when your media doesn't tell you this, doesn't talk about it, let's just do some math, okay? Do you guys mind doing some math? 500,000 a year is, I believe, if I remember the number correctly, 1,369.7 per fucking day. So if you think you have a fucking clue of reality by watching your television, I got news for you. Your mind's about to be blown open, and a lot of you are going to lose your minds. Because now you're going to realize the whole thing's been subverted for a long time. Your education, your government, your medical mafia, all of this has been subverted. All of it. The judges with these lightened sentences for sex offenders, putting them back into society as quick as possible. You notice one of their last moves, even right now, is to try and free prisoners from the jails to make your society more unstable. This is about to be all exposed. This is about to be mainstream. The word adrenochrome is going to be as common in the lexicon of language as coronavirus is now.
This was a joint op with the Marines, Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, and the National Guard, and it was a massive operation. That was the cover for getting into this DUMS of China Lake that goes from the Presidio in San Francisco down through the Ridgecrest tunnels all the way under LA, out from the submarine entrance at Coos Bay all the way into China Lake. And as we'll see here later, that whole facility is mostly gone. There's still a little bit mop-up going on. So they're almost done with this. And that's all the fires, like at the Oakland Bay Bridge and in San Francisco on the Oakland side, there were fire. And then in Porter Ranch, there was fires. That's because they have to clean that out. The Kuru infected, that's contagious in late stage 2 and stage 3. So they have to use fire to clean those beings out. If they die, that's highly contagious. And so they continue to do that, and it's almost completed now. We're almost completely done, but California's, majority of California, that huge light rail system they were putting in, the high-speed bullet train, all of that was just to create more tunnels, more DUMS, and so that all has to be cleaned out. It's a massive operation. Now, this first map here is the main surface DUMS, in other words, near surface, that only go to about 80, 90 miles deep. So that map there shows all of the interconnected tunnel systems along with the primary big, huge DUMS. Like the person in Michigan had asked me about the peninsula, and I told her the DUM goes under Lake Ontario. The tunnels from it to Lake Superior, where she's seeing lots of kids being grabbed. You can see how those tunnels go under there. Those are actually being cleaned right now. Those tunnel systems, they're going up into Canada, which is, a massive nest of just total satanic mess. And then you can see the connection to Dulce and the big, huge bases in New Mexico and Area 51 and Nevada and all of that. And then you can see the old connection to China Lake, which is all taken out, and the Ridgecrest tunnel system going up through connected to San Francisco and the Presidio, going way up north through Coos Bay in Oregon and up and through Washington and all the way up. So all of that's being worked on heavily, as we'll see in this decode. And then this map is the mid-level domes, the more ancient domes. And they figured out, based on their intel, how much flooding all the domes in the world would take. And it would drop the ocean level so vast that it could cause another ice age, because if you drop it too far, you get down into the big currents that circulate through the ocean. Like in the Atlantic, you have the Gulf Stream, and then you have the Horatio current and all of those different currents. And if you upset those currents in the ocean flows, you can literally upset the entire ecosystem of the world. And so they decided they had to use hand-to-hand combat on land, as well as certain advanced techniques that they've just recently come upon. Like they took out the dam in Twin Lakes, or Twin Falls rather, excuse me, in which they blew a hole in a lava tube that is part of the supervolcano of Yosemite, and in doing so they flooded that facility.
There's fire actually coming through the manholes at Porter Ranch up at the Ralphs up here. That's pretty crazy. I've never seen that before. A lot of flames coming through there. So it's underground at this moment. There's some more over here coming through another vent. That's wild.
Down to the deep dumps. Now, this ones are the ones that go extremely deep and are very, very ancient. Back when the Satanics first came here, it goes into the hole that Admiral Byrd went into that is in the Arctic, and all of the bases up in Siberia, the deep, extremely deep satanic bases of the satanic beings and the demons. So what you're seeing here is the demonic stuff, the really deep, really evil stuff. That's why it says at the bottom, Wiccacraft. That's, black magic, Satanism, satanic magic, and all of that, casting, incantations and spells. And all of this is very dark and deep and evil. And so the battle down there is very horrendous, but the connections underneath the ocean are gone. Those have been blown and flooded. So they don't have the maglev trains going from continent to continent anymore. China Lake, that was completely neutralized and taken out. Through the Ridgecrest tunnels, they collapsed them as they came in. Then they did a series of 3 tactical nukes. The first blast was at 6.4, second one was at 7.1, and another one followed that at 6.1. And for those that understand earthquakes, your initial shock is the highest. Aftershocks aren't lower, so that's not natural. It's really obvious that was intentional. And then you can see the lake there about this, which completely made the China Lake base that was on the surface have to be completely rebuilt due to that large facility. And people freak out when I tell them this, but that was a Mark Ultra base, what they call a spark grid, where they have a large nuclear blast that hollowed that out to come in and lay hundreds of layers of steel flooring with cages in them that they put children in. When the special forces, a large group of special forces came in, they rescued 35,927 children from this facility. It was one of the primary Mark Ultra development facilities on Earth.
Traditionally the peak of hurricane season, we're doing a series of reports we call the Eye of the Storm. Today, evacuation gridlock. We'll start with CNN's John Zarella who's in the Florida Keys live this morning. John.
Get ready to read all these words on this page without making a mistake.
Is with us. Good morning, John.
Morning, Vince. Let me tell you, emergency managers and hurricane forecasters will always tell you can run from the water and you can hide from the wind. That means you've got to get out of the way for storm surge, but you can usually hide from the wind.
Look at the letter at the end and remember the sound it makes. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready to read this word the fast way. Get ready. Kid. Yes, kid. Sound it out. Get ready. Kid. Sound it out. Get ready. Kid. What word? Kid.
I'm Amanda Lang at the New York Stock Exchange, where we could be in for a solid open to the trading day. Stock index futures point to some buying for the broader market and for techs.
Yes, kid. Boys and girls, sound this word out. Get ready. Steel. What word? Steel. Yes, steel. Read these words the fast way. Get ready. Playing. Yes, playing. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Let's read these words the fast way without making a mistake. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready. Kid. Yes, kid. Get ready. Steel. Yes, steel. Get ready. Plane. Yes, plane. Get ready. Must. Oh, shit. Look up to lesson 60. Drop it. Thank you. Everybody touch the title of your story. Fingers under the title. Get ready to read the title the fast way. We're waiting for one member. Okay. Thank you. Fingers under the title of the story. Get ready. Go, let go. Yes.
This just in, you are looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
The cats go. Fingers under the first word of the story. Get ready to read the story the fast way. Get ready. Go, girl, ride, go, let go.
This is the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. It looked like an airplane crashed into the building. Thank God it wasn't terrorists, though.
Huge. The hold is, let me just get a better look right now.
Dad, what is that falling? Is that a person?
Where?
Oh my God, falling.
Okay, go ahead. We'll wait. I'd say the hold takes about. And there's more explosions right now. Hold on, people are running.
Wait, hold on just a moment. We've got an explosion inside.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll tell you what's going on.
Okay, just.
What? Oh my God! It's terrorists! That is what do we do?
Let's go. Gotta move back.
Oh my God! What do we do? We have. I don't know.
You with me, John? I don't know.
What's happening? Just a explosion! Down, my man!
Let's just get back. Get back. You with me, John?
They just think there's going to be another explosion.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a difficult moment for America. Today we've had a national tragedy. Two airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
Agents, and you can see the two towers, a huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way.
I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families.
You okay?
Yeah. Please. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Watch out, watch out. Oh, I got it.
And to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act.
The top came off.
Terrorism against our nation will not stand.
When my kids were little, I used to read to them from Alice in Wonderland. And I remember we learned that the Mad Hatter was mad because it represented hatters of the time, and that apparently the guys who made hats used mercury to turn the fur into felt, and they would breathe the mercury, and it would cause brain damage, and hence the Mad Hatter. And that was in the 70s and 80s that I had my young kids, and I, at the same time, was learning that we were supposed to avoid using aluminum pots and pans because there was apparently a connection to autism. So that was the first time for me that I made any connection between heavy metals and human health. And then a few years ago, I learned that there was an unnatural amount of aluminum in the soil, and that there was a program spraying aluminum and other heavy metals up into the atmosphere, and so I wanted to check it out. And that's the first way that chemtrails showed up for me. Basically, chemtrails is a geoengineering program where airplanes fly at high altitudes and they spray chemicals into the atmosphere, including aluminum, barium, and strontium. And then those metals fall to the ground and they land in our bodies, on the soil, in our trees, in our food, and in our water. Many people confuse chemtrails with the normal jet contrails. The difference is that the normal jet contrails actually dissipate within minutes, while the heavy metals in the chemtrails cause those trails to persist for hours. And it's not a hypothetical thing. There are 32 states that already have legislation that's related to weather modification. The U.S. agencies that are documented to be involved in it include the U.S. Air Force, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the U.S. Department of the Interior, the National Science Foundation, and I know China boasted about using cloud seeding and weather changing before the 2008 Olympics in order to keep the opening ceremony dry. So that this is happening is completely documented. It's just that you have to know where to look because it's not talked about on mainstream weather reports. And this is where it gets controversial. And it's kind of weird because even though it's factual that there are metals in the atmosphere and factual that those metals are falling to the ground, when you acknowledge that or question the legitimacy or the legality or the safety or the morality, it becomes controversial. And really, that's sad because if you're questioning something that has such major impact on us and on future generations and on our planet, it seems to me that it should be one of the most natural and encouraged parts of life and education. So if you're not educated about this issue, I encourage you to do some basic research, and I've put some links at the bottom of this blog to help make that easy. I personally don't know anybody who is informed who isn't concerned, although the range of concerns is vast. For some, it might be that they think that this is a benevolent weather modification program, like putting snow on ski slopes in a bad season, but that it's inadvertently having some negative health impacts. Somebody else might think that the so-called solar radiation management is backfiring because the supposed idea is that you blanket the sky with these heavy metals and it reflects the sun back to itself. However, it's also creating a blanket and trapping the heat in, and so they are concerned about that. Somebody else might think that it's a corporate agenda to get an upper hand on commodities trading by being able to control and therefore predict the weather. And when you realize that 80% of the global economy is impacted by weather, that would certainly give someone an upper hand. Somebody else might just think it's a very sinister plan to sicken people and further control our food supply. The point is that there are any number of concerns no matter what belief system motivates you. And that's significant because I think it both validates the range of dangers and at the same time it informs what we can do about it. Because even for those of us who are convinced that we have a problem, our motivations and concerns vary, and that means that our strategies for engagement also have to vary.
As you approach the start point of the road to be sprayed, walk at your preferred spraying speed, the speed which you used to calibrate your sprayer. As you reach your start point, start spraying with your nozzle 50 centimeters from the foliage. Walk slightly to one side of the spraying nozzle to avoid contact with the sprayed vegetation. If you are spraying a band or row, spray only the target surfaces. For instance, adjust your swath width so that you only spray the crop row or the row of vegetables. If possible, spray with the wind at your back, blowing from you towards the nozzle. Monitor your spraying pressure and keep your spraying speed constant. Constantly check that your nozzle is producing the right spray pattern and drop size. Check that the spray is reaching the target surfaces. Avoid spraying too much pesticide so that the drops run off the leaves. This is too much. Check that spray is reaching the leaves of the potato canopy that are lower down, as well as those at the top of the canopy. Contact insecticides and fungicides will only control the pest where the spray has made direct contact with the pest. So check that every leaf and stem that is sprayed has a cover of drops over the entire surface. Contact herbicides also need an even coverage over all of the weed. You can use the same techniques for the spraying of systemic herbicides.
Heightened states of emergency across the nation as the number of coronavirus cases soars above 3,000. Tonight, elected officials taking unprecedented measures to keep people safe. Illinois and Ohio closing all bars and restaurants beginning tonight. California shutting down bars and wineries and asking those 65 and older to self-isolate.
We recognize around the rest of the world that we need to meet this moment head on.
New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio closing all New York City public schools, affecting more than 1 million students starting tomorrow.
The economy is not going to be anything like it was. It's going to take a long time to recover. It's going to be, people are going to be surprised at how slow and how fitful this is.
You're telling me you're 100% certain that CBS News Corporation, National, staged a fake event. They faked the news. They faked the reality and broadcasted that to all of their audience last Friday on CBS This Morning.
100%, absolutely.
And apparently, the news crew wanted more people in the line because they knew it was scheduled.
Well, we knew they were coming. We had no clue that we were going to have to, do fake patients.
Gotcha. And did she tell you guys, hey, you're not actually getting tested?
Yeah. Yeah, she did. Well, just to make it look busy for the news because they were right there.
That's crazy. Well, I didn't see you guys do the swab at all. I just saw you talking with them. And then I was talking with the other girl.
There were a couple real patients, which made it worse. They probably just wanted it to look busy. Is my guess.
A chance for us to share things like reducing childhood death and improving the nutrition. So it's a chance for us to travel to Africa, meet with scientists. We see a lot of things that are going very well, things like reducing childhood death and improving the nutrition. So travel to Africa, meet with scientists. We see a lot of things that are going very well, things like reducing childhood death and improving the nutrition.
And if you can eliminate these 7 toxicities,
By definition, chronic disease cannot exist. Cancer can't exist. Autism, stroke, diabetes, arthritis, it cannot exist. Now, the key word is it effectively detoxify the body. What are those 7 toxicities? 1, heavy metals. Heavy metals are everywhere. We're breathing it in, combustion of fossil fuels. They're injecting into our bodies. It's outgassing from our teeth at 5 to 9 nanograms per deciliter per tooth per day and every amalgam filling, and it goes on. That's just mercury. I'm not even talking about the cadmiums and the nickels and the tins. All right, second toxicity, persistent organic pollutants. These are the fluorinated hydrocarbons, the organophosphates, the chemicals, preservatives, insecticides, pesticides, the glyphosates, constantly being introduced into our bodies. And this has been going on for decades upon decades, right? Of the dirty dozen that are out there that they identify as being toxic substances that now are banned from international commerce, those dirty dozen, every one of them was used for a minimum of 50 years before they banned them, some of them up to 75 years. So they've been prepping this for almost 3/4 of a century, introducing this crap into us. Third toxicity, opportunistics. Opportunistics are what? Bacteria, viruses, spirochetes, mycoplasma, yeast, parasites. What they can't, these things naturally weren't virulent enough to cause enough sickness. So what do? They start doing gain of function studies. They start taking talented people like Dr. Minkowitz and many of those out there and saying, look, we got to do these different things. Okay, so that's the third thing, opportunistic. That's what COVID-19 is right now. Fourth thing, energetics. These are the electromagnetic radiations, the ambient cell phone radiation. What is 5G? It's a microwave technology, right? It's going to change the voltage-gated calcium channels, manipulate the transport membrane, the ability for the substances to transport across the cell membranes. It's going to cause the hemoglobin iron dissociation, all these other aspects. That's just part of it. Fifth, if there's one thing that's more important than anyone else, I say none of these toxicities are more important than the other toxicities, but if there is one you're going to single out, it's going to be the fifth toxicity. That's the emotional, psychological one. And that's what they're doing right now. They're separated. They're stressing us out, scaring us. Stay inside your home. Dogs are barking out there. They're going to get you this rabid dog out there, or a pack of dogs called the COVID-19 is going to bite you and tear you apart if you walk outside. I'm telling you, open the damn door, walk out. You're going to find there's not even a poodle or a chihuahua out there. It's a freaking tape recording of a dog barking, okay? So that's the fifth one, the emotional, psychological one. The fear-mongering is all part of that. The sixth one is foods, not what we're taking into our mouths, but what we do to our foods. The irradiation, the pasteurization, genetic modification, the homogenization, they've been doing this for years. The last one is spiritual. They can't hit us spiritually unless we allow them to hit us spiritually. So of those 7 toxicities, they have orchestrated the first 6 of them, and they're trying to take out a lot of the population. And if we understand this and are aware of it, you empower yourself with this knowledge, then the one thing is they can't use you as a victim anymore.
People act like you have a choice. People don't feel like going to the stadium when they might get infected. You know, it's not the government who's saying, okay, just ignore this disease. And, you know, people are deeply affected by seeing these deaths, by knowing they could be part of the transmission chain. And, you know, old people, their parents, their grandparents could be affected by this. And so you don't get to say, ignore what's going on here. There will be the ability, particularly in rich countries, to open up if things are done well over the next few months. But for the world at large, normalcy only returns when we've largely vaccinated the entire global population.
And I have to ask, how do you sit here with confidence to call out these great forces and not fear for your life as you leave this building?
Because if we don't stop this now, we can not only forget our republic and our freedom, but we can forget humanity because we'll be killed by this agenda.
So Anthony Fauci.
My name is Dr. Tony Fauci. I'm the director.
The man who is heading the pandemic task force was involved in a cover-up.
He directed the cover-up. And in fact, everybody else was paid off, and paid off big time. Millions of dollars in funding from Tony Fauci's organization, National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease. These investigators that committed the fraud continue to this day to be paid big time by the NIAID.
And the whole world is listening to his advice for how to handle this current pandemic. How do we know that what he's saying is what we need to be learning?
What he's saying is absolute propaganda, and the same kind of propaganda that he's perpetrated to kill millions since 1984.
We know from this study quite clearly that there will be a delay in progression significantly greater than for individuals who do not take the drug.
Bayh-Dole fundamentally changed the way universities approach technology transfer, and you can see that best in the statistics. Universities obtain 16 times as many patents today as they did in 1980. Now, everybody's getting more patents, but still, universities' share of all patents in the United States is more than 5 times greater than it was before Bayh-Dole. The situation has gotten so bad that one information technology industry official has publicly referred to universities as, quote, crack addicts, unquote, driven by, quote, small-minded tech transfer offices addicted to patent royalties.
That act gave government workers the right to patent their discoveries, so to claim intellectual property for discoveries that the taxpayer paid for. Ever since that happened in the early 80s, it destroyed science. And this allowed the development of those conflicts of interest. And this is the crime behind letting somebody like Bill Gates with billions of dollars, nobody elected him, he has no medical background, he has no expertise, but we let people like that have a voice in this country while we destroy the lives of millions of people.
Normalcy only returns when we've largely vaccinated the entire global population.
If we activate mandatory vaccines globally, I imagine these people stand to make hundreds of billions of dollars that own the vaccines.
And they'll kill millions, as they already have with their vaccines. There is no vaccine currently on the schedule for any RNA virus that works.
And while face masks are not mandatory for people at the protest, starting in just more than an hour, they will be mandatory for customers and employees of those essential businesses we've mentioned here in Pennsylvania. Crystal Cranmore has more.
I'm going to issue an executive order that says all people in public must have a mask or nose covering, mouth and nose covering.
Singapore has moved to make it mandatory for people to wear masks as soon as they leave the house.
This will become the new norm in the state of Illinois, people wearing face masks in public. It was already advised by the CDC, but today Governor Pritzker made it a requirement.
Face coverings work, and we need all Illinoisans to do their part here.
The CDC says a face mask should fit snugly against the side of your face, be secured with ties or ear loops, include multiple layers of fabric, and allow for breathing without restriction. If you don't have a mask, you can make one. The U.S. Surgeon General posted this video on Twitter a couple weeks ago.
Here's how you can make your own face covering in a few easy steps with items you can find around the house.
All you need is a scarf, handkerchief, or t-shirt.
Fold it to the middle from the bottom. Fold it to the middle from the top. Fold it again to the middle from the bottom, and again from the top.
Then put a rubber band on each side and fold the fabric on the sides to the middle.
It's that easy.
Good evening. It's been nearly a week since a pair of local doctors held a news conference calling for shelter-in-place orders to be lifted across the state. 23 ABC's video of that press conference had garnered more than 5 million views on YouTube, but last night YouTube removed that video, stating it violated YouTube community guidelines. 23 ABC's Bayan Wang has been following this development and joins us live from Northwest Bakersfield now. Bayan?
Yeah, Jessica, when the doctor's news conference was removed from our YouTube page, man, all of our phones were ringing off of the hook. The public calling in, blowing up our phones, our emails, accusing us of violating freedom of speech laws. But we know that that is the furthest from the case that there is. YouTube confirmed with us that they removed our video from YouTube because they believe our video violated community guidelines. Now this incident catching national attention.
I say, do we need to still shelter in place? Our answer is emphatically no. Do we need businesses to be shut down? Emphatically no.
This is a portion of the 51-minute video in which doctors Dan Erickson and Artin Masihi held a news conference last week making controversial statements about lifting shelter-in-place orders. The video received over 5 million views on YouTube, but that video was abruptly taken down by YouTube for content they say violated YouTube policy.
and the United States, and for the international order that we have worked for generations to build. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
When you voluntarily give up your right to free will over your body, you communicate to your experience that you allow another to have control over you, and this path only leads to death. You must make a stand now and refuse any outside control over you. You are your master,